Maggie Barry.
Mr. Speaker. I am going to rise, and I am very happy to rise, to speak in support of Budget 2012. I represent the people of the North Shore, and my constituents like this budget because they are an intelligent, aspirational community who understand only too well that when times are tough, you have to cut your cloth accordingly. It's the right budget for these difficult and tough economic times, and its measures are prudent and sensible and will result in the kind of moderate growth this country needs as we move towards getting the books back into surplus. The opposition are, of course, and are indeed the no-hopers, the chattering classes. They've taken more than enough of our time with their foolish preoccupations with the minutiae, the pickpocketing, the paper boys, tipping old people upside down in their dressing gowns. Many of them should just retire and do us all a great favour, actually. So we're going to put aside that nonsense because more than enough time has been spent on it already. Let's actually look at the facts of this budget. I know that's uncharted territory for the opposition, but as we in this government chart our course back to surplus, we have indeed developed and delivered a zero budget. We're sticking to our plan because it is working, and that doesn't mean for a moment that we are not investing in growing our economy. We are saving and reprioritising where we can and continuing to spend in the priority areas that are vitally important for New Zealanders and for this economy's growth. There are four main areas I want to talk about today. There are many winners in Budget 2012, and overall we have progressed our aim of funding frontline services. Let's start with health. Minister Tony Ryall, I believe, is to be congratulated, not only on achieving milestones with immunisation targets, which are vitally important for our young people and for our future, but also under his watch there have been 27,000 more elective operations. That's 500 extra a week compared to what we were able to do in 2008 after 9 years of opposition. We have, as a result of some slight increases in prescription charges and from savings in health and across all of our government accounts, made an extra $1.5 billion available to go into health services. This is an excellent achievement for Budget 2012. It means, in fact, there's more funds going into DHBs. There's more elective surgery and there's better cancer treatment. For anyone who has been through the health system in New Zealand, I think that they would fully approve of the move to put the extra $33 million into faster services, and particularly for dedicated nurses who can coordinate care for the patient. This is a vital need that has long been required, and now we're delivering on it. When we look at welfare, we all know that too many New Zealanders are welfare dependent, trapping families in poverty and costing us all far too much. Something like 12% of our working age populations are on a benefit, and unlike the opposition, we believe that those who can work should work, and we want to support them off welfare and into jobs. So, in the past 3 years, we have created an extra 60,000 jobs against a backdrop of the global financial crisis, the Canterbury earthquake, and, of course, the complete mess that Labour left our books in after their profligate spending of nearly a decade. Minister Paula Bennett has ushered in Future Focus, which has saved around $17 million. She's introduced payment cards for teenage beneficiaries to help them make better choices about their budgeting and to not blow their money on booze and cigarettes instead of the rent. For welfare, we are investing in this budget over the next 4 years $287.5 million to support those on welfare going into work, and that's going to save the taxpayer $1 billion in benefit payouts. $80 million is also being ploughed into early childhood education, childcare places, because we believe that investing in our very young is vital for the future of this country. A further $55 million for dedicated staff who can support job seekers and sole parents back into work because they need help. It isn't going to happen by itself. It is vitally important that the frontline services are improved, but they need to be targeted. And we're also spending in the welfare area $148 million on better youth services so that they can work with the young unemployed. These people need hope and they need a future. Education, there's been a lot said about it in the last few days. It is another winner in Budget 2012 with an extra $512 million. We have continued our firm focus on raising student achievement and teaching excellence. I believe Hekia Parata is doing an outstanding job. We do have a world-class education system and a very dedicated, talented and hard-working teaching workforce. And there is so much to be proud of. But, and there is a but, not all of our children are succeeding and realising their potential. There are something like 1 in 5 who are not getting the qualifications that they need, and we believe that that is not good enough. That needs to change. Let's look at what's happened in the last 10 years. We have in the public gallery a big group of school children who are here, and I think you'll appreciate this more than perhaps the chattering classes on the other side of the chamber who have not yet learned to listen.
Order. The member cannot bring the gallery into the debate. She is addressing the Speaker, and therefore through the House.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Speaker. On the National Party, we believe that our young people deserve a lot more, and that we want all our children to leave school, that's 5 out of 5 of them, with the qualifications they need to make a good life for themselves. So we've targeted specifically 85% of all 18-year-olds to achieve a minimum of Level 2 qualification, NCEA 2 or equal. And we are also starting increasing participation in early childhood education. We want to target by 98% an increase there in the next 5 years. Budget 2012, crucially and specifically, invests in improving the quality of our teaching. The biggest change is an explicit trade-off of quantity for quality, and we're not ashamed of that, and we're not resiling from it. Part of the way we're funding this is to make a small adjustment to the teacher-student ratio funding in schools from years 2 to 10. These are funding ratios, and we as the government fund them, and as Minister Parata has at pains to point out on several occasions, it is the schools who set their own class sizes. So what is going to be the impact on schools? Let's put aside the scaremongering and the misinformation that's being peddled by the opposition and actually address the facts. 90% of our schools, as the Prime Minister said in this very chamber a couple of hours ago, will either gain or have a net loss of less than 1 full-time equivalent as a result of the combined effect of the ratio changes and the projected roll growth. Moreover, there will be 10% of schools that will have a difference, and there are a few sharp edges on that. We want to look at the people who are catering specifically for technology classes at years 7 to 8, and that is effectively the intermediates. I met on Monday in my electorate with a group of 9 school principals from intermediate schools. They told me their concerns. In a 2-hour meeting, we discussed their concerns in some detail. I agreed with them that their issues were real ones. We took the message back to caucus, we discussed it robustly, and there were clarifications that emerged from that. The Ministry has, for example, announced, along with the Minister who's announced it actually, but the Minister has directed them, that there is now going to be a guarantee that the staffing entitlement in all schools in New Zealand will not be reduced by more than 2 full-time equivalents over the next 3 years as a result of the policy changes. And there is also going to be a working party that is going to get together, and there are funds, a contingency fund, so that that management, that transition to the new ratios will be achieved. This is an important issue, as is the issue with seniors. And I don't want to digress into the rebuttal of what the opposition is saying. I want to concentrate on what people really care about. And in my area, the seniors are worried. They are very worried about the level of services for dementia care. I share those concerns. New Zealanders are going to be getting something like $10 million over the next 4 years for community-based dementia services. This is a very important area. We are also increasing funding for aged residential care beds by $82.4 million over the next 4 years. We understand that New Zealanders want to stay in their homes for as long as is possible. So we are increasing funding to raise an extra $57 million compared to what was spent back in 2008. The asset test, let's look at it briefly. Labor's complaining that the threshold's being altered. They forget, of course, that when times were good in the early 2000s, Labor was looking for ways to spend money, so they introduced a flat $10,000 annual increase. We are actually slowing that rate of increase in recognition of the tight times and the ageing population, so we're going to be using the Consumer Price Index to set the threshold, just as we do to increase national superannuation every year. National superannuation, like the asset testing, will be geared to the Consumer Price Index, and that's a very important point. I'd like one last point to make on this. I personally would like to celebrate the other measure, which is the encouraging news that we are increasing the funding for environmental schools, Enviro schools, by 7.6 million.
The member's time has expired.
Thank you.